Well, fortunately, they have been, as it were, quite solid in opposition to what this government's been doing. And I say the same about the Tories, they do the same. We had David Cameron, just before the Conservative Party conference, talking about the fact he wanted to abolish human rights, which it sounds good because they're worried about sovereignty. It's got nothing to do with human rights. But sovereignty, European Union, cast iron promise to you that I will have a referendum on the Lisbon Treaty. 1 week later, Czechoslovakia, the Czech Republic have just signed, so can't have that. So the cast iron guarantee that there'll be a referendum melts away, and then he says, well, we'll have a Sovereignty Act. And people go, sorry, you can't have a Sovereignty Act, actually, that's what the Lisbon Treaty is all about, you don't need, oh, sorry, well, we won't have that then. And then somebody points out, took 2 conservative lawyers to say, well, anyway, David, you know, the Human Rights Act was the brainchild of Tories. One was called Winston, and the other one was David Maxwell Fyfe, who was the Lord Chancellor after the Second World War. So finally that's evaporated, but make no mistake, they're also out to, as it were, reduce it. It's become a dirty word, almost sometimes the same breath as socialism. Apparently they're both the same. So it's not as though I've got it in for Labour. I'm afraid I've got it in for Tories. I've got it in for politicians, I'm afraid. Because I know in a part we are responsible for putting them there, while some of us are. But the fact is they have abused power. As a lawyer, it is a disgrace what has happened in the international arena. And that's one of the reasons why actually asking Tony Blair to be an envoy on human rights is itself a disgrace. Because he knows less about it. And interestingly, the legal opinions that he was asked about in relation to the war, the Attorney General was, you know, in 2002, you know, he said it was not on regime change. You can't go to war for regime change. And then somehow or another he just doesn't attend another cabinet meeting for a very long time until just before they're about to go to war. And guess what? He changes his mind. And now, of course, we're getting all sorts of stories about whether he was bullied or whether... The fact is, when Tony Blair was never asked the question, what's the most obvious question you want to ask Tony Blair? What do you understand constitutes an illegal war? They never asked him the question. Because I don't think he knew all this business about a second resolution and all the rest of it. So here, I think in one breath you have a situation in which what I'm saying to people is, don't vote for the usual suspects this time round. They've got to be... I haven't even dealt with duck houses. I haven't even dealt with... I'm getting too worked up. Duck houses, you know, all the rest of it, right through to this week, you know. I think it's a fine old thing when we've got a politician saying, you know, Stevie Byers, you know, Byers Market as they say. Byers, yeah. When they're lying about things they haven't done. I find that extraordinary. That's the level of it. I mean, in a way it's a joke, but it's not a joke. And so I think that if people have not got the message now, I'm not sure when they ever will, there needs to be a reformed system, big time, to get some kind of reflection. Call it whether you call it proportional representation or something, there has to be a proper reflection. 600 odd MPs, not a single one of them voted in by a majority of their constituencies. 33% of the electorate votes, gets in 55 seats, 55% of the seats. That's Blair's position. It's got to change. And it's no surprise, I don't know how many people here are under the age of 25 and how many are prepared to vote. Most people I come across, what's the point of voting, you know? It's going to make any difference. That's where it's got to. There's real alienation. And as they used to say, you know, if voting changed anything, they'd make it illegal. So that's the state of the nation. So it seems to me the point has come when we've got to do something about it. And, you know, I'm not advocating armed revolution, I'm talking about a revolution in the ballot box. And a ballot box is going to mean something this time around. They've got to sweat their guts out because they're not entitled as a matter of divine right to govern. The arrogance of power has led to the corruption we've seen, the corruption of the rule of law.